In this episode of the Leadership Hustle, we're going to discuss how your reasonable decisions are causing drift in your company. Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Hustle for executives whose companies are growing fast and need leaders who are ready. Hi there, and welcome to this episode of the Leadership Hustle. I'm Andrea Fredrickson, and I'm joined by my co-host, Michelle Hill. And today, we get to discuss one of the most common reasons people are sent to our level up class. What would you say is one of the most common reasons people are sent to one of our level up classes?
Oh, there's a few. I would go with probably communication and accountability.
Okay.
But probably more accountability because I will hear, well, they just don't hold their people accountable.
Right? And, I think that And just for clarification, Level Up is one of our basic supervisory classes.
New learner. New manager.
Yeah. But we could apply the same response to other levels of an organization. Mm-hmm. There's an accountability and there's a communication issue in almost all cases.
Yes. And don't delegate.
So today, we think... I don't think our leaders and managers in the companies that we work with wake up and go, how can I make work for all the people on my team harder? I don't think
I would have people that disagree with you. Because I say that. We don't wake up to make life miserable for others, but hey.
Right? But sometimes it feels as an employee that it feels like it's more difficult. And so, all right, leaders, we're talking to you specifically in this conversation about making sure that whatever the rules are, call them what you like. If it's the rules, it's the policy,
expectations,
it's the expectations, standards, right? Whatever those are, that you're upholding them. And people's like, oh yeah, I do that, right? And then they go, well, most
for some.
of the time. For some.
Some. There's some maybe they don't. But even upholding, it's like, how good of a job have you done at helping people understand what it is and why?
Right.
Right. And I think that's what holds people back sometimes too, is because they recognize, oh, maybe I didn't explain it real well or talk about it, or it was really quick thrown at them or whatever.
And we're going to also make the assumption that those that are put into the leadership roles, I'm going to say this a little tongue-in-cheek, but the reality is, they were put there because they're good at what they're doing.
Yes,
they want to do
tasks.
a good job.
Yes.
Okay? Reasonable people.
Yes.
Right? And so what happens is that we have these rules, expectations, standards, guidance, non-negotiables, whatever those are, and then the behaviors start to drift. And so in our language, we talk about a culture that drifts, the behaviors that drift. And so when we think about the drift, it's simply that it doesn't always get upheld. The rule doesn't always get upheld consistently.
Yes.
Right?
You're not role modeling it consistently either.
Right.
There's a bit of both.
Right. So let's look at this. I think there are circumstances where people choose not to uphold the rule. And that is the situation where drift starts to happen. It's
slowly.
Right. It doesn't happen like this, kaboom.
No,
this didn't happen.
Again, it's not a big event. It's something slowly. It's, oh, they know, I'm just, you avoid, because they know, oh, they're just really busy or they got a lot going on. Right. And then that just, yes.
So it's one time something didn't happen, but the next time it happened correctly. That's not what we're talking about, okay? It's the pattern of not upholding a rule, either yourself not upholding the rule, or you're not upholding the rule or reminding people or correcting the behavior that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, this is truly a leadership expectation, but peers can do the same thing. Peers can uphold, it's like, hey, by the way, we talked about on time being noon on Friday, it's 4 o'clock, right? It's like it's over, right? It's like we have to talk about this. So let's talk a little bit about what is the consequence of not upholding a rule consistently? What kinds of things happen when we don't do that?
Well, I think there's a perception that people perceive when expectations are not upheld, where, people are, hey, we need to do this kind of conversation. They're not important. There's this perception they're not important, and if that one's not important, then maybe this one's not important,
right?
And then maybe this one's not important, right? And then you also have where it might be upheld in your area, but not another area. And like we've talked, that gives that definitely creates an us versus them, but then it also causes that perceived that belief that, oh, well, it must not be that important. It's just important to my manager. When they're not here, maybe I won't do that. There's just these. It's the messages that are sent without words, right?
Right.
When we don't, and then the next thing we know, they're not doing it.
Well, it's often like you hear people say, like, if we don't follow the rule in the handbook for one rule, then the rest of them are negotiable,
correct,
or conditional,
yes,
as well. It's like, no, we can't just uphold it when it's convenient. Okay. We have to uphold the rule because that's the rule.
If this is what we say, yes. Right. Don't have them if you're not going to, because I think that's worse.
Oh, for sure. It's like you have the rule but nobody follows it, then what's the point?
Yes, yeah.
That's not worth the time that we wrote it. And people tend to behave based upon convenience or comfort. It's like, if I don't
easiest
want
path
to, if I have if I've not followed a rule and Michelle notices that I haven't followed the rule, she might just think, well, I'm sure this is just one time. It's not going to happen again. It's just comforting. It's more comfortable for her not to have that conversation with me, versus it would be way better if it's like, hey, Andrea, because Andrea might have just like, oh, crap, I forgot.
Correct.
Right? Or,
that
got buried.
That accountability. And when we're talking about rules, it's not necessarily all the policy handbook rules either.
No.
Again, it goes back to how we work together, how we get stuff done, how we treat, like the work together, how we treat each other, and how we get things done.
Right.
So
in a previous episode, we talked about standards. We might have a standard that says, do what you say you're going to do. Some people use the word integrity. It's like, that has such a broad meaning, right? But if you say, do what you say you're going to do, or do what you promised, let's do that. That can mean for customers, it can mean for coworkers. Well, do what you promise means meet your deadline.
Interesting you just said that, because that's something that's been popping up lately. People will do that for their external customers,
right,
but the organizations are struggling because they don't treat the internal customers the same way.
Oh my gosh.
But it drifted at some point.
Yes.
It was probably the same expectation for both, but at some point it started drifting where we don't have to be nice to each other, or we don't have to help or consider it, or whatever that is, right?
Right.
We need to do this for them, but we don't have to do it internally.
So sad. So sad. Okay, so let's talk about, we have 3 buckets that we refer to when we talk about drift. Let me give you the 3 buckets, then we can talk about each one separately, okay? So DET, those are the 3 initials. So delay drift, exception drift, and tolerate drift. So let's talk about delay drift. What does that look like? What's it sound like?
It's exactly what delay. It's I'll get to that later. I'll talk to her tomorrow, or I'll talk to her at our next meeting, and then we get to that next meeting, and 1, we forget, or 2, we're like, oh, it's been too long. It's not. It's been too long. Or they did it, but then they didn't do it, or vice versa, right? So that I don't need to mention it.
Oh, this only happened one time. Yes. It's not going to happen again. If they've never done it before, no reason to bring that up. I'm afraid of how they're going to react.
Yes,
and I gotta get my head wrapped around it.
I don't want to upset them. It's delayed. We delay, and then unfortunately, the stories in our mind change the situation, and we might make it easier for us by then not having the conversation.
Right. And it confuses everybody who's watching, right? Because everybody else many people saw whatever it was that didn't happen or did happen that wasn't supposed to.
Yes.
Right? And so it's like, is that the rule? Is that not the rule? Is it a situation where, why did they get to do this, right?
Again, it gets into the us versus them, favoritism, and
so
all that fun stuff.
That's delay.
Yes.
And think about, how many of you have delayed a response and then either never done it, or when you brought it up to them, they're like, why didn't you tell me then?
Correct. Or in their mind, they think it's not that important because you waited so long to say something.
Exactly.
I mean, again, it goes back to how we interpret things and assign that meaning. So,
and that causes drift.
Yep.
Okay. Second bucket is exception.
Well, this is, I always use this example, but it's the killer high performer salesperson they're so good at X. Oh, they get, such a high percent of, we're just going to tolerate them dumping work on other people or communicating in it. Well, it's like when you start somewhere and they're like, well, yeah, he's like, he or she, they're a little to the point and blunt, but that's just them. Okay. You just now made an exception for that bad behavior. Right. It does not mean they can be a jerk. I was using a different word, but
there's expectations or other exceptions where you may have a person that's been there for a long time.
Oh yes, they've been there forever,
right? And so we don't want to rock the boat with them because they're loyal. They've been here since the beginning. So we've inherited them. We don't want to do that.
Well, and working so frequently with family business.
Right.
Oh, it's the owner's son.
Oh, yeah. They're family.
It's family. Yeah, that's that.
So we aren't going to hold them accountable because either they've been told not to or they perceive they shouldn't.
Yes. Yeah. And more often than not, it's perceived when you talk, when you have those meetings and discussions. But they're, if I hold them accountable, what's going to happen to me? Mm-hmm. Again, it goes back to me a little bit too, right?
And another example of, this is just one time. The exception, like, this is a different scenario. This is a different situation.
But it's a unique situation.
It's like, is it?
Yeah. Well, and I will hear that one when we're really busy, right? We're really, really busy. And so they let stuff slide. Yeah. And because, we're not going to be really, really busy for the next, this is just going to be this pocket of time here.
Well, we're not quite so busy. We can do it differently.
We'll regroup when we're not. I mean, I've literally had some people say, let's just regroup on X, when we slow down, think in June or July, right?
Never slows down.
But then it doesn't. And so then what they wanted to address has drifted further.
Right. And when you don't address it for those reasons, you lose credibility. Mm-hmm. Right? You lose credibility when you don't address the delay. You'd lose credibility when you
make exceptions.
Okay. And the third one is when it's called tolerating. Okay. So tolerating.
I think of the tolerating a little bit of like kind of what we've talked about, whether it's that salesperson or it's that person that's been there forever, but they've that's just them.
Just them.
Yeah.
Or they've been doing this forever. Right? So there are times where someone will make a comment about a gender or a position or a team and no one calls them out on it and they just it just gets tolerated.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Somebody who cuts somebody off in mid-sentence or
it just becomes part of that. Sorry, as I just said it. But it just becomes normal. Oh, that's just normal.
Right. And so that becomes the culture. So the drift of respecting people, letting them finish their sentences, the drift of respecting people regardless of what department they're in, their gender, their ethnicity, the things that, make a person human, like these comments, And so that becomes part of what's tolerated. And again, it lowers the standard, it lowers the energy, and you will get people who are like, I'm not tolerating it and I'm out.
Well, yeah, either you will get people who decide to butt heads, like this isn't okay and I'm going to say something, and now you've got friction, right? Or you get people that just lean back and check out.
Right.
I don't know which is worse, to be quite honest. I get torn because no comments and no response doesn't mean they're okay with it. But we sometimes think they are, and it's like, no, that's actually probably worse. It's like they're not
it's not safe to say
No,
something.
Exactly, yeah.
And so we talk about, if it's not psychologically safe, people think they can't say anything, and so because of silence, they think that people are aligned. It's okay, and so that's called false harmony.
Anyone, yeah.
It's false harmony, and that's not okay. That's one of our enemies as it relates to your culture. So, if you were to pick one, is there one that you think happens more often than others? I don't know if there is such a thing, but is there one?
I don't know. I think I'm thinking of different groups I've worked with or working with. I hear them all.
I do too.
In the same environments.
Exactly.
It might just be different departments or something, but I don't know. I hear them all. I just had a couple conversations yesterday, and exceptions were for sure there. Tolerate was for sure there.
Well, and the delay, especially when we're coaching people, I hear that a lot, where it's like, and when something didn't go exactly, when something didn't go as we expected, it's like, so what'd you do when you said something? I haven't said anything yet.
Or how'd the follow-up conversation go? Oh, I haven't followed up.
Right.
Okay, you told them something.
And so does the leader, so is your culture. And I don't know how more concrete we can say this. As leaders, when you allow, when you delay, when you excuse, when you tolerate a behavior that is truly a standard, truly an expectation, that becomes your culture. And the culture can be by team. And by team, it becomes part of the company. I know a lot of folks that when they're interviewing, they'll say, tell me about the culture of your company. And they'll talk about their values and things like that. And they'll say, no, tell me about the team culture.
How does the team work together?
And depending upon who they ask, it's like, well, some people don't even know because they're not working on the team, or they're afraid to say what really happens on that team. Maybe why there's turnover on that particular team, because the leader is tolerating or excusing or delaying conversations.
Yes, and people will, when we excuse or tolerate or delay any of them, you're going to have people that eventually leave. Yeah. You're good people, because they're not going to tolerate it, but they can't control it. What they can control is if they stay or not.
That's all they can do. So listeners, there's 3 questions for you. Think about a situation recently where you need to have a conversation but have been delaying that conversation, right? Second question is, think about who or what you're excusing and why you haven't held that standard tight, okay? And think about, are there behaviors that you are tolerating that have become just common, but people are not happy with it at all because it doesn't support either the values of the company or an explicit standard that you've established? Because again, culture is the byproduct of what you, the leader, is rewarding or allowing. And so that's the challenge that we have for you, listener leaders, following this episode. If this episode is one of those that you can relate to, where you found yourself listening and it's like, oh, I do that, and want to have a conversation, don't hesitate to reach out to us, because we would be more than happy to answer some questions or to talk to you further about what kinds of things you can do to make those things better. And thanks for listening to this episode of The Leadership Hustle. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss another episode.